Laudetur Jesus Christus, Vatican and World News.
Here in the headlines this Friday, January 8th, Pope Francis expresses his closeness and concern for Venezuelans as a long-running political crisis and the pandemic grind on. U.S. President Donald Trump commits to an orderly transfer of power following a deadly riot in the Capitol building. The World Health Organization says a rapidly spreading COVID-19 variant may force European nations to tighten restrictions even further. And the new Apostolic Nuncio to Kuwait and Qatar says his position affirms the Pope's dedication to interreligious dialogue and fraternity. In the Vatican, I'm Devin Watkins. Pope Francis has expressed his closeness and prayers for the people of Venezuela, who have been hard hit by severe humanitarian and socio-economic crisis exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Pope sent his sentiments in a brief letter to Cardinal Baltasar Porras Cardoso, the Archbishop of Mérida, and who also acts as the Apostolic Administrator to the capital, Caracas. Robin Gomes has the story.
Pope Francis has sent a brief message to Venezuelan Cardinal Baltasar Porras Cardoso on the occasion of his name feast on January the 6th. The cardinal is named after Balthasar, one of the three magi, also referred to as the wise men from the east who visited Jesus after his birth, bearing gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. The other two were Melchior and Gaspar. Catholics mark their visit to baby Jesus on the feast of the Epiphany, 6th January. The event commemorates the first manifestation of Jesus Christ to the Gentiles, represented by the Magi. In his letter to Cardinal Porras, the Pope wrote, "May God continue to give you strength and parousia, so that with a father's heart you know how to accompany and comfort his holy faithful people, tried by the suffering caused by the scourge of the pandemic, the arrogance of the powerful, and the growing poverty that strangles them." Noting that the feast of the Epiphany is the day of the manifestation of the humility of God, who becomes light that defeats the darkness that covers the world, Pope Francis greeted Cardinal Porras and offered his prayer to the Lord for him and his ministry as a bishop. Despite having the largest fossil fuel reserves in the world, Venezuela has been in the grip of a severe economic crisis for years now, with hyperinflation one of its major problems. This has triggered shortages in food and medicine, forcing more than 5 million Venezuelans to migrate to other countries in recent years. This has blown into a political crisis, with the government of President Nicolás Maduro and the opposition headed by Juan Guaido engaged in a bitter power struggle. Venezuela is also struggling to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, with a total of over 115,000 cases and 1,052 deaths. I am Robin Gomes.
In other news, Democrats in the U.S. Congress are weighing impeaching U.S. President Donald Trump for an unprecedented second time after his supporters, inflamed by claims of election fraud, stormed the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday. Democrats in the House of Representatives, which holds the power to impeach the president, will hold a conference call at noon local time to discuss their next steps, according to two Democratic aides. Amid mounting calls for his removal from office, Trump finally denounced Wednesday's violence that left 5 people dead, including a police officer. Christopher Wells reports.
In a video released on Thursday evening, President Trump promised a smooth and orderly transition of power later this month, though he stopped short of abandoning his claims of fraud. In the immediate aftermath of Wednesday's assault, which halted a session of Congress held to certify Democrat Joe Biden's election win, Trump had declined to condemn the incident, instead telling supporters he loved them and repeating his assertion that he was being cheated of victory. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, both Democrats, demanded on Thursday that Republican Vice President Mike Pence and Trump's cabinet invoke the Constitution's 25th Amendment, which allows them to strip the president of his powers if he cannot discharge the duties of his office. An advisor said Pence opposes the idea. Pelosi and Schumer, along with other Democratic leaders, called for immediate impeachment proceedings if Pence and the cabinet refused to take steps to remove Trump from power. Biden is due to take office on January 20th. Trump's video on Thursday was the closest he has come to conceding defeat in the November 3rd election, as he promised a smooth transition to a new administration after weeks of making claims of massive electoral fraud and a rigged vote. In a speech on Wednesday, Trump had exhorted a crowd of thousands to protest at the Capitol. Demonstrators stormed the building, overwhelming police and forcing authorities to transport lawmakers to secure locations for their safety. A Capitol police officer died from injuries sustained in the assault, the force said on Thursday, and a woman protester was fatally shot by the authorities, while 3 people died from medical emergencies during the clashes. I'm Christopher Wells.
Indonesian Islamist cleric Abu Bakar Bashir, the suspected mastermind of the 2002 Bali bombings that killed 202 people, walked free from prison on Friday after serving 10 years for setting up a militant training camp. Authorities said Bashir, who was never convicted of a direct role in the bombings, would enter a de-radicalization program. Bashir is regarded as the spiritual leader of a jihadist network with ties to Al-Qaeda. A new study carried out in the United States shows that Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine appears to be able to protect against new variants of the coronavirus which originated in Britain and South Africa. Though the results have yet to be confirmed, the study indicates the vaccine was effective in neutralizing virus with the so-called N501Y mutation of the spike protein. The first results of the tests on the variant offer some hope as Britain and other countries try to tame the more infectious variants, which authorities believe are driving a surge in infections that could overwhelm healthcare systems. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization, or WHO, has expressed concern about those new variants, which is spreading rapidly throughout Europe. As Stefan Boss reports, the WHO has urged European nations to do more to curb the new variants.
Wearing a face mask, WHO Europe Director Hans Kluge paints a gloomy picture for nations already suffering lockdowns and other coronavirus restrictions. The official suggests that stricter measures are necessary to halt the spread of the new variant of COVID-19, which was first detected in Britain.
22 countries in the WHO European region have detected this new variant. With increased transmissibility and similar disease severity, the variant does, however, raise alarm. Without increased control to slow its spread, there will be an increased impact on already stressed and pressurized health facilities. I want to urge countries to mitigate this burden by doing all they can to reduce transmission and increase vigilance to identify any new variants.
Health experts say the variant is considerably more transmissible than previous strains. However, England's Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty urges calm.
Is there any evidence this is actually more dangerous? And there's no evidence for that at the moment. There's no evidence that if you catch this variant, you're more likely to have severe disease than if you catch different variants.
He also suggests that tests detect the new COVID variant and that vaccines rolled out appear adequate for now. The appearance of the variant in southeast England triggered travel restrictions with dozens of countries in December. Other nations outside Europe, including Japan, Canada and Australia, have also reported variants. The World Health Organization says more than 230 million people in Europe live in countries under full national lockdown. And with a new COVID-19 variant now being detected, more nations are due to announce further restrictions soon. For Vatican News, I am Stefan Bos, reporting.
Pope Francis recently appointed Archbishop Eugene Nugent as the new Apostolic Nuncio to Kuwait and Qatar. Archbishop Nugent, who hails from the Midwest of Ireland, has served since 2015 as the Nuncio to the Caribbean nation of Haiti. Speaking to Vatican Radio, the Nuncio describes his mission in Haiti and what his new assignment says about the Pope's dedication to interreligious dialogue.
Haiti is, as you know, a very poor country that gets a lot of negative publicity in the media because of the natural disasters that occur here, earthquakes, cyclones, and then the political stability, the poverty, and the violence that we read about in the newspapers. But that is just one part of the reality. What I discovered here was a wonderful people, extraordinarily gifted people, very creative artists, musicians, writers and poets. I made so many friends here in Haiti over the past 6 years, and I will really miss this country, which is so beautiful, and the people who suffer so much, and it is such a pity to see that. And hopefully Haiti will see brighter and better days ahead, because they really deserve a better future. Yesterday, the 7th of January, the Holy Father announced my new appointment to Kuwait and Qatar. This is also a new area for me. I don't know these countries. I will be leaving Haiti in mid-February, and I look forward to this new assignment, which is a sign of the Holy Father's confidence, I suppose, in me, but also the importance that he has placed on dialogue with the world of Islam. And I hope that the experience that I gained in my previous assignments will help me in this new mission. Of course, trusting in the Lord, trusting in Our Lady, and very much also in St. Joseph. This is the year of St. Joseph, who is the patron of the Church.
Thanks there to Archbishop Eugene Nugent, the new Apostolic Nuncio to Kuwait and Qatar. And finally, the Vatican's Pontifical Council for Promoting Christian Unity and the Lutheran World Federation recently released an updated Italian translation of the Joint Declaration on the Doctrine of Justification. Cardinal Kurt Koch, who heads up the Pontifical Council, says the translation is a sign of a renewed commitment to the journey of ecumenical dialogue.
The aim of this publication is it to foster further understanding, particularly in context in which Italian is spoken and where the main religion is Catholicism, of this unique document marking a fundamental step in Catholic-Lutheran reconciliation. The crucial question of Christian existence, of how one arrives at salvation and remains in salvation, had given rise to bitter controversies in the 16th century that eventually led to division in the Church. But times have changed. Today, Catholics and Lutherans are able to confess together in a differentiated consensus, by grace alone, in faith and Christ's saving work, and not because of any merit on our part. We are accepted by God and receive the Holy Spirit, who renews our hearts while equipping and calling us to good works. By launching the updated Italian translation of the Joint Declaration of the Doctrine of Justification, with accompanying text on the day Catholics and Lutherans remember the 500th anniversary of the excommunication of Martin Luther on 3rd January 2021, the Lutheran World Federation and the Pontifical Council for Promoting Christian Unity reiterate their commitment to walk together on their common journey from conflict to communion. In a joint foreword, the Lutheran World Federation General Secretary, Reverend Dr. Martin Junge, and I write, "We cannot unknow the history of separation, but it can become part of our history of reconciliation."
That was Cardinal Kurt Koch, President of the Pontifical Council for Promoting Christian Unity. That brings us to the end of this edition of Vatican and World News. For more on these and other stories, go to our web portal at www.vaticannews.va. There you can also find all our broadcasts in podcast form. And don't forget to catch the latest updates on our Facebook page and Twitter feed. In the Vatican, I'm Devin Watkins.